This is Northern Light for Tuesday, June 9th. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. June primaries are just 2 weeks away, and we're profiling candidates for a North Country congressional seat. This morning, we'll hear from Democrat Stuart Amoriell, a restaurant owner in Lake Placid.
Housing is hard to find and ridiculously expensive, whether you're looking to buy or whether you're renting. The cost of groceries, we all understand, how much it's gone up.
Also, a new jobs program is connecting soldiers who completed their service at Fort Drum with local jobs in the hopes of keeping them in the region.
If they can align their skill sets, their capabilities, and experience with the right opportunity, that's what influences them where they choose their home post-military service.
And NCPR book reviewer Betsy Kepes says she would read anything from Canadian writer Miriam Toews. She'll tell us why and share a review of Toews' new memoir.
All that's coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us. Northern Light is supported by the Thousand Islands Arts Center, opening a new facility in Clayton this June, offering instructional classes for all ages, exhibitions, and events year-round. Details at tiartcenter.org. And by the Keys Financial Services, now partnered with BK Capital LLC, offering investments, financial planning, and insurance for over 35 years. Offices in Lake Placid and Durham, Connecticut. keys-financial.com. This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. For the first time in more than a decade, the North Country will have a new representative in Congress. Republican Elise Stefanik isn't running for re-election, and that opens the race up to a field of mostly political newcomers. We're bringing you profiles of the top 4 candidates this week, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Both primaries will be held on June 23rd, and early voting starts this Saturday.
The candidate with possibly the least name recognition is Democrat Stuart Amoriell. He's a restaurant owner from Lake Placid who's running on a progressive platform. Emily Russell brings us this profile.
I meet Stuart Amoriell at his restaurant in downtown Lake Placid. It's called The Pickled Pig.
Hello.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Good to meet you.
You as well. Come on, I just got here.
This place sells jalapeno poppers, pulled pork tacos, and something called Papa Stew's BBQ brisket chili. Before I sit down with the namesake of that dish, a few customers stop in for lunch.
Absolutely. Where are you comfortable?
Amoriell wasn't always in the restaurant business. He grew up in Maryland and later started a small tech company in the Mid-Atlantic. But when his parents moved back to the North Country, where they're both originally from, Amoriell started thinking about doing the same. About a decade ago, he says he was given an offer he couldn't refuse.
A friend of mine owned the restaurant before me, and he said, "Hey, Stu, we have a restaurant we want to sell." I came up, and the rest is history. We bought it, we moved our family up here, and this is where we raise our family.
Amoriell and his wife have 2 young daughters. Politics were never part of his plan. He's never run for public office before. But last November, that all changed. One of his employees at the Pickled Pig, who's originally from Venezuela, was stopped by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Amoriell says the employee was legally authorized to work in the U.S., but says ICE pressured the man to self-deport.
I was furious, and I'm still angry. And that is when I decided to run for Congress.
Amoriell announced his campaign from the back of a snow-covered pickup truck at John Brown Farm in Lake Placid. Along with pushing for a, quote, just and compassionate immigration policy, Amoriell has also made affordability a key focus of his campaign. He says it's just too hard for most people to build a good life in the North Country.
Housing is hard to find and ridiculously expensive, whether you're looking to buy or whether you're renting. The cost of groceries, we all understand, how much it's gone up.
Another top issue of his campaign is health care. Nearly 30% of people in the North Country are on Medicaid, a program whose funding was slashed last year by the Trump administration. At a recent Meet the Candidates event in St. Lawrence County, Amoriell said the federal government needs to reverse its approach and rebuild its health care system.
It is well past time that we have universal single-payer health care for every American.
I really like Stuart.
That's Darlene Fannis. She's a Democrat from Malone. She was at the event in Waddington to hear from both Amoriell and his Democratic opponent, Blake Gendebien. Fannis says she appreciates Amoriell's stance on some key issues.
Universal health care, immigration. I mean, all the hot button topics right now. I think that he's got a really good head on his shoulders, and I think that he can make it happen.
But Amoriell is facing an uphill battle. He's only collected about $12,000 in contributions and has spent nearly $100,000 of his own money. Plus, he's only been campaigning for about 7 months. Meanwhile, Gendebien has been campaigning for more than twice as long and has raised $4.6 million. Last spring, he was endorsed by every Democratic chair when he was set to run in the special election that never ended up happening. President Trump withdrew Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's nomination to be UN ambassador, so she decided to stay in office through the end of this term. Jay Belanca is the chair of the Washington County Democratic Committee, which has again endorsed Gendebien. Belanca doesn't hold back when asked about Stuart Amoriell.
In my opinion, he's eminently unqualified to be a congressman. I don't know why he's running. He's not from the North Country. He is, I'd call a carpetbagger.
But Sue Abbott-Jones, a Democrat from Saranac Lake, thinks her party is misguided in its support for Gendebien, who has taken mostly middle-of-the-road positions. She points to the last 3 Democrats who challenged Stefanik. They took moderate stances on issues like gun control and the economy. They all lost by double-digit margins.
The past 3 candidates especially have had this thing that we have to be moderate. We have to be moderate. And they're not looking around them.
This critique is one that Democrats nationwide have been grappling with since President Trump's resounding win in 2024. What kind of Democrat is better positioned to beat Republicans in November? Progressive candidates have thrived in races from New York City to Montana, but voters in a hotly contested New Jersey district recently backed a more moderate establishment candidate. In northern New York, Stuart Amoriell thinks that getting progressive voters fired up now and through November could help flip the district.
We see time and again that we cannot take their vote for granted. If they are not motivated, they just simply will not show up. So we really can win this, but we need somebody that does not run from our positions, but runs on our positions.
Amoriell isn't running on a third-party line, so if he loses the primary, he's out of the race. He says he will endorse Blake Gendebien if Gendebien beats him on June 23rd. For WAMC and North Country Public Radio, I'm Emily Russell in Lake Placid.
The NCPR newsroom is partnering with WAMC to bring you profiles of the 4 top candidates running to represent the 21st Congressional District. Early voting starts this Saturday and primaries are on June 23rd. You can find all of NCPR's election coverage on our website, ncpr.org/election.
One of the North Country's oldest newspapers is scaling back its print publication. The Plattsburgh Press-Republican will move to a 3-day-a-week print schedule starting on June 16th. The paper currently publishes a print edition 5 days a week. Press-Republican leaders announced the change last week, citing a nationwide shift from print subscriptions to digital readership. The newspaper says the changes will not affect its local news coverage or the number of stories it produces. It will continue publishing daily stories online and distributing a digital e-edition of its newspaper 7 days a week.
SUNY's chancellor says the State University of New York system remains strong despite federal actions targeting higher education. Samuel King with the New York Public News Network reports that direct state support is up by almost $500 million over the last 4 years.
SUNY Chancellor John King says the system has seen the largest amount of support in decades under Governor Kathy Hochul, and that's enabling them to maintain their mission of, quote, affordable excellence and an in-state tuition freeze at the four-year campuses.
We had enrollment increases in every sector for the last 3 years. That's the first time we've had back-to-back-to-back enrollment increases in 15 years.
King says he's optimistic about higher education in the face of growing skepticism about its value and funding cuts at the federal level. He says those who earn college degrees still earn more in their lifetimes than those without.
So we're delivering that career value, but we're also delivering incredible economic value to the state.
King says the SUNY Reconnect program, which helps adult learners to go to community college for free, will expand to more high-demand fields and additional campuses next fall. SUNY also received a boost in money to upgrade facilities and is hoping for more funding to continue to do so in the future. In Albany, I'm Samuel King for the New York Public News Network.
This is NCPR. You're listening to Northern Light from North Country Public Radio. It's 8:11. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. Stick around. NCPR book reviewer Betsy Kepes digs into a new memoir by Ontario author Miriam Toews.
That's coming up in just a few minutes here on Northern Light. But first, we'll hear a little bit more music from Mark Corey out of Watertown. Northern Light is supported by the Adirondack Community Foundation, offering donor-advised funds and other charitable giving tools to help individuals and families support the causes they care about. adkcommunityfoundation.org. And by the AdirondackExplorer.org and AdirondackAlmanac.com, presenting daily updated news on public policy, environmental issues, and local communities in the Adirondack Park.
Almost 20,000 soldiers are based at Fort Drum Army Base near Watertown. At any given time, thousands are completing their military service. A new program called Next Move New York hopes to keep them here in the North Country. It recently launched a new job portal. News intern Khadijah Makaji reports.
Every year, about 4,000 soldiers transition out of Fort Drum in Jefferson County. Ben Cruz, program administrator of Next Move New York, matches those veterans to jobs locally. Cruz says when service members stay in the area, they contribute to the economic growth of the North Country.
Those individuals tend to buy houses here, economical impact. Those individuals tend to shop in our mom and pop shops restaurant, economical impact.
He says their families also help the local schools.
Schools get funding based on headcount, so the more families we have staying here, the better it is for our community.
In March, they had over 100 individuals signed up for the job portal. Next Move New York enrolls businesses and connects them to service members for job matching. The portal helps service members find jobs they're interested in so that the work they do can be meaningful.
If they can align their skill sets, their capabilities, and experience with the right opportunity, that's what influences them where they choose their home post-military service.
Veterans and their spouses can meet with staff in person at their Watertown location or Fort Drum Military Base for assistance in the job searching process. Cruz says he hopes Next Move New York can become a pilot for job matching across New York. Khadijah Makaji, North Country Public Radio.
The plan for a waste management company in Washington County to clean up soil contaminated with PFAS has been put on pause. The company, known as ESMI, has been operating in Fort Edward for 3 decades. It cleans up soil that's contaminated with PCBs. Last year, it applied for a permit to also accept soil that had PFAS in it, another form of forever chemicals. There were 2 public hearings scheduled for this year, but ESMI has put its application on pause. Activists in Fort Edward want to prevent the company from ever processing waste with PFAS in it. Aaron Shello-Levine reports for the New York Public News Network.
Jessica Donnelly is an organizer with the Fort Stops PFAS. Donnelly says a New York Department of Environmental Conservation representative told her ESMI had requested to halt the permit approval process.
My reaction was first just complete shock, and ESMI had requested this to occur in that they wanted to basically retract their application, not really canceling the permit application, but just putting it on pause.
PFAS contamination has been linked to ill health effects, including cancer. I'm Aaron Shello-Levine for the New York Public News Network.
2 dogs were killed and 2 people were injured when a home exploded in Argyle in Washington County last week. Investigators say a buildup of gases in the propane ignition caused the blast. The Albany Times-Union reports the homeowner was initially trapped inside the home and was rescued by a nearby resident who heard the blast. Both had minor injuries. 2 Chihuahuas died in the fire. The home was destroyed.
The Ogdensburg City School District will host an informational meeting this week ahead of a revote on its budget. In May, voters rejected the district's $58.2 million proposed spending plan. It includes a nearly 4% tax levy increase and cuts to elementary school positions and sports. According to the Watertown Daily Times, if voters turn down the budget again, district officials will be forced to implement a contingency budget. The district says that could lead to even more cuts. The district's informational session about the budget is scheduled for Thursday from 6 to 7:30 at the Ogdensburg Free Academy. The revote will take place on June 16th.
And a boat launch in Jefferson County is closed for the summer. The Butterfield Lake Boat Launch and Fishing Access Site in Alexandria is undergoing major site improvements. The DEC says those include ramp replacement, parking area improvements, and shoreline stabilization. The project started yesterday and continues through early fall. Anglers are advised to check out other nearby fishing sites. This is NCPR.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:18. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. Stick around after the show for Bird Note coming up at 8:42. With our eyes to the skies, sunset in Shazy is at 8:39 tonight, and the moon is a waning crescent at 37% of full.
Another sunny day is on tap for you today with highs in the low to mid 80s. Sunny and dry conditions too. Light and variable winds out of the south and southwest today. A chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms will develop overnight tonight and early into the day tomorrow and continue for the rest of the week, making the heat build and humidity build too, and temperatures at least that'll make the air temperatures feel maybe warmer than they normally would, with highs, heat indices expected to be into the 90s for some parts of the North Country as we head into the day on Friday. At last check, though, today it was 69 degrees in Malone and in Potsdam, 53 degrees still in Racket Lake, 62 degrees in Chestertown, and 67 degrees in Cape Vincent. This next interview that we'll hear discusses suicide. It's about 7 minutes long. In her new memoir, Ontario author Miriam Toews pieces together bits of memories, conversations, and letters to reflect on the life and death of her sister. It's called A Truce That Is Not Peace. NCPR book reviewer Betsy Kepes and I met up to talk about it at a small library in St. Lawrence County.
We're in the Morley Library, which is a long room in what used to be a general store until 1923 when it became the Morley Library. There's a family that's enjoying the kids section, and in the back there's the history room, and there's some cozy chairs, and it's all in a pretty small space, but it's bright and airy.
And we're here today to talk about the latest book from Canadian author Miriam Toews. Can you give us a little bit of background on her?
Sure. Toews is a very important current Canadian writer. She writes mostly fiction, and the books are very funny and very sad at the same time. Her latest book was called Women Talking. It was made into a movie in 2022, and it won a lot of prizes. We're going to talk about her memoir, but maybe at the end I'm going to talk about an entry-level book before the memoir that might be good to read.
We'll make sure to circle back to that.
Yeah.
Because the book we're here to talk about today is it's nonfiction, like you said, and it's called A Truce That Is Not Peace. Can you set up the book for us?
Sure. Really, I think the reason Toews needed to write this book is 16 years ago, her older sister, who she admired greatly, committed suicide. It's been many years, but she's still dealing with why. Why did she do this? And how does one continue to live when one's wonderful, amazing sister is dead? So that the title of this comes from part of a poem by Christian Wyman. And here's the longer quote. We might remember the dead without being haunted by them, give to our lives a coherence that is not closure, and learn to live with our memories, our families, and ourselves amid a truce that is not peace. So it sounds like this is going to be a very serious book, and actually it's serious, but it's also super funny in parts. She's got this gift of writing some crazy prose. It's a completely non-linear book. You're like, what does this have to do with anything else? And then she'll circle back. It's brilliant that way. Should I read a little bit just so we can get an idea? One of the main characters, I'm going to call her a character in this memoir, is Toews' mother, who's in her 80s, has suffered many tragedies. Her husband committed suicide. Her daughter committed suicide. They were basically kicked out of the Mennonite church for being too liberal. But this is a woman who is just joyful and loves life. Okay. My mother phones from the hospital where she underwent a stress test. She tells me that during the procedure, her blood pressure dropped dangerously. Oh no, I say. She tells me that the doctor took one look at her and asked, how are you? Well, I'll tell you, she said to the doctor. Not great. I'm going out. Goodbye. My mother and I laugh and laugh. What did they do then? I ask her. Oh, they injected coffee into my vein and I was instantly revived. And then they gave me a ham sandwich. So it's this kind of little stories that she sprinkles throughout the book that really give it this wonderful joy amongst the grief.
Sounds like life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think... Yeah, it's rare, isn't it, to read a writer who's so brutally honest on the page, and in the midst of some horrible things, there's great joy. Her mother, in this time period when she's writing this memoir, she's living in Toronto in a house that they built in the backyard of her mother's house, and there's 4 generations, including these young children, all living there, and it sounds like it's absolutely wild, and it's exactly what she needs.
You know, you mentioned a little bit about the style of the story. How does she tell this story? What's the structure like?
So in the very beginning, we find out that she's been invited to this special symposium in Mexico City, and that all the writers have to submit an essay about why I write. So she plays with that idea throughout this book, why do I write? And at the end, basically comes down to because my sister asked me to. And here's a section where she's remembering when her sister did ask her that. At the age of 24, my sister left university, left her boyfriend, left the city, and moved back home with my parents. She stayed in her old bedroom most of the time, making lists, reading poetry, sleeping, wearing a green terry cloth housecoat, her wild hair a black tornado, her green eyes getting wider and wider, it seemed to me, while she whispered with my mother late into the night. Then she stopped making sounds altogether. She wrote words that she sent to me on yellow-lined paper, her neat sentences straight at first, then dipping downwards at the end like rigid fishing rods with baited lines. I was preparing for a trip, I answered back. Yes, all right. You live, and all right. She drew a happy face on the page, and one word, deal. So she follows that with some letters that she must have kept, her sister must have kept, about a bike trip in Europe in 1982, and they're actually hysterically funny as all the bad things that happened. And you see, even as a young woman, she has the voice that she was going to develop as a writer later on. And you do thank her sister for saying, write to me. I can't talk anymore, but I want to read what you are doing and what you have to say.
You know, a subject like suicide can be pretty heavy, and you're a big fan of Toews. I'm curious, what keeps you coming back to her books?
I think I'd read anything she wrote. As I said, her style is very unusual. The books are short. They zigzag here and there, and yet you see this creative, bright mind writing them. I would suggest, like as a starter book, before you read the memoir, she has a fictionalized version of her sister's life and death called All My Puny Sorrows, and it's really good. And also the same, it's very funny and also very sad at the same time. So yeah, definitely check out Miriam Toews, and it's spelled Toews, writing about things that we're all interested in, I think.
The book is A Truce That Is Not Peace by Miriam Toews. Betsy, thank you.
Thanks, Monica.
Betsy Kepes is NCPR's longtime book reviewer. She lives, works, and writes in Colton. Before we go this morning, we're going to take a minute and take in the sounds of the season. I recently took a walk on the trails behind St. Lawrence University, walking through the forest and along the Grass River. Let's take a listen. That was a short walk around Canton on a recent morning walk. And you can send us in the sounds of the North Country, revving up the snowmobile, ice climbing, simmering soup on the stove, or summer activities, jumping into a swimming hole, or taking a hike in the Adirondack High Peaks. Grab your phone, open the voice memo or voice recorder app, get nice and close, and hit record. And you can share it with us at news@ncpr.org. You might just hear it on air.
Northern Light is supported by McFadden Deere Insurance in Canton, Potsdam, and Gouverneur, encouraging North Country residents to support local nonprofit organizations that provide services to those in need. McFaddenDeere.com. And from the Northern Forest Center, investing in people and communities to build the new forest future. Online at northernforest.org.
That's it for the show. Stick around for news headlines from NPR coming up next.
Then after that, it's today's edition of Bird Note. We'll get a profile of sagebrush sparrows and how they're unlike most songbirds. That's just ahead at 8:42. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. Be well.